We can continue. Right, so as I was saying, you need to be very familiar with the syllabus. So what you expected to know for this particular chapter. So for energy, you need to know, not energy, heat. You need to know the common sources, right? And then you need to be able to state that temperature of an object is a measurement of its degree of hotness. So how hot or how cold an object is or a particular body is, we can tell by looking at the temperature. Okay, differentiate between heat and temperature. Do know that they are not the same, so please don't mix them up. Okay, heat is a form of energy. Temperature is a measurement of the degree of hotness of an object. Okay, and then you need to show understanding that heat flows from hotter to colder region, okay, until both regions reach the same temperature. So all of these you are already familiar. Okay, there are also more for you to know. Relate the change in temperature, okay, to the gain or loss of heat by the object. So when something gains heat, what can you say about its temperature? It's going to increase, right? So when something loses heat, that means what? Its temperature should decrease. Okay, the opposite will happen usually lah. So gaining heat means temperature will rise. Losing heat means temperature will fall. Okay, now list some effects of heat gain or loss in our everyday life. Okay, so talk about contraction, expansion of objects. Okay, so it is also similar for solid, liquid, and gas. Change in the state of matter. Yeah, so like melting, like evaporation, boiling, condensation. So this is all about heat gain and heat loss, right? I hope you still remember because it is going to be important. Identify good and poor conductors of heat. So in general, good conductors will be like metal, okay? And then poor conductors, you need to know wood, plastics, air. Of course, there are more examples. And later on in these slides, you will see more of them. So define heat as a form of energy. Okay, energy that is transferred from one object to another. Then again, heat flows from hot to cold. Heat is something that we cannot see, but we can feel it. Okay, heat will make an object warmer. Okay, so we are actually trying to say a gain of the heat, right? That's why the object is warmer. Then what is temperature? Okay, temperature is a measure of how hot or cold an object is. It is measured using thermometer. And for us, I think we're all very familiar with this unit, degrees Celsius. So we always measure temperature this way, right? By representing it in this unit. Okay, so what other units for temperature do you know? Anyone? Are there any other units you know? Fahrenheit, yeah. Don't know how to spell. Okay, yeah. So you might be thinking of Fahrenheit. Do you know another unit is Kelvin, capital K? Okay, yeah. So go and find out more about the different units of temperature. All right. Now, temperature and heat are related. Okay, in that the transfer of heat from one object to another will cause a change in temperature. I think these are quite obvious to all of us, yeah. The two are actually two different concepts. You should not confuse yourself with them. Yeah, correct. Gordon, yes, the K. Yeah, you heard of that before. Of course you did. Now, heat versus temperature. I know this is very lengthy. Okay, but these are notes, right? Would you like to have these slides? Want or not? Would you like to have these slides so that you can also read this for your own revision? Yeah. Okay, so let's try to do more of this. Now, main differences between heat and temperature. So when I type this out, you see temperature measure of how hot or cold. Heat is a form of energy. So this is like the way we can differentiate them. One is a measure of how hot or cold. Another one is a form of energy. So temperature is measured in units of degrees Celsius. It can be Fahrenheit, it can be Kelvin. So you can see the Kelvin here, yeah? While heat is typically measured in units of joules. But in your case, at your level, you might not even have to know about how many joules, etc. Okay, usually even for energy, they tell you units only. Correct not? So certain like 3 units, 5 units, etc. But when you go to secondary school, things will change. You're going to learn specifically what are the various units, and you have a lot of them to learn. Okay. Temperature is a property of a single object, does not transfer from one object to another. I can't say, hey, I pass some of my temperature to you. I'm 37 degrees Celsius. You are 35. I give you 1 degree. There's no such thing, isn't it? I can't transfer it to you. Okay, it's only the heat that can be transferred. Clear? Okay, heat can be transferred from one object to another. Temperature cannot. Isn't this slide wrong? What? Where? Huh? I actually don't understand what you're saying. Temperature is heat or cold. Where? Yes, please.
No, but isn't the slide wrong? Because temperature is hot or cold, and that can flow from one object to another.
Temperature
how
is no temperature is a measure. Okay, temperature informs us how hot or how cold a body is. All right, but what flows is actually energy, which then change the temperature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, does that make sense? Hi,
Yeah.
honey, you're here. Okay, good. Yeah, pardon. Yeah, because just now you said something, it got me a bit surprised. Yeah, temperature is heat or cool. Then I thought I typed wrongly, no? Gordon, for a while I was thinking, did I type heat or cool? Temperature is a measure of how hot or cool. Yeah, I typed correctly. You gave me a shock. I almost had a heart attack, Gordon. I thought I typed wrongly. Okay, good. Okay, at least you clarify now. It's not the temperature that flows, but it's the heat that is flowing that causes the change in the temperature. All right. So again, where am I now? Point number 4. Temperature affects the physical and chemical properties of an object, such as volume, pressure, etc. Heat can cause a change in the state of a substance. So we can look into this later on also. Anything you all want to type in? No, let me see whether I missed out anybody's comments. Yeah, Teja sent a lot of the different units. Yeah, so basically it's still degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin, right? Thank you so much. Okay, back to this. So talk about changes of states. If I'm just comparing solid and liquid, can you see that when solid gains heat, right, it can melt into a liquid, correct? Then at the same time, let's say I put the liquid in the freezer. For example, Evan, I put water in the freezer. What will happen to the water? Okay, you can unmute, yeah. It will freeze, he typed. Okay, it will freeze. Yes, the water will freeze and change back to solid ice. All right. Yeah, Timothy, you're feeling very cold. Suddenly I saw someone in blue cape. Timothy, very cool, huh? Right. So if you, let's say, heat up a liquid, it can change to a gas. All right. So like when we are boiling water, then we also talk about water vapor condensing back to liquid. So changes of state can happen when we play around with the heat. So whether we give the substance heat or we take away heat from the substance, it will change its state. Now, you also learn about good conductors of heat, remember? Okay, so you want to have heat being transferred from one place to another, or a hotter region to a colder region. Yep. You need also good conductors of heat around. So they are actually materials that transfer heat easily and very quickly. So examples here, remember we talked about metal just now. It was a very general term, metal. What are the metal? You can talk about copper, silver, aluminum. Now, so you start thinking, how come the cookware, those things that you are using in the kitchen, there are pots and pans and there are metal parts to them because they conduct heat very well. You all know this, right? Yeah, that's why we use them, okay, as our cooking utensils. Then water is also good conductor of heat, all right, though not as efficient as metal. Yeah. Okay, so we use water as a coolant in engines and also those machineries that generate a lot of heat. Okay, next, graphite. Okay, all these are extra information for you. You might not need to remember them now. No need to, in fact. Okay, but you need to know them in secondary school. Secondary school, you will always come back to the same topics you've done in primary school. And these are actually some of the points that you will see again in secondary school. So if you don't know what is graphite, it's actually a form of carbon. So these are extras. Maybe later on, I will add on to the slides to tell you that these are extra information. Whether you know it now or not is not going to affect your PSLE, but you must at least know metal. Can? Yeah. Concrete also. Yep, concrete, good conductor of heat. Okay, then ceramic. So I'm going to leave you to read out on your own because these are just additional information. Okay. Then we talk about poor conductors, right? Poor conductors, I think you know about plastic, you know about air, you know about wood. And the one on air is very common. Do you realize that it's always like testing you on air? Okay, for example, feathers, right? The birds have feathers. How come the birds can keep themselves warm? How come polar bears can keep themselves warm? Because in between the feathers, in between the fur, they have this air pockets. So the feathers and the fur actually trap air. Air is a poor conductor. Yeah. Okay, air is a poor conductor. That's why it doesn't allow heat to flow through easily. Then that also tells us heat cannot be lost that easily. Okay. Right, Gordon, you actually Google for the birds question. No need to. You learned this before. I can even show you PSLE. There are questions like that, no? Talking about the trapping of air. Okay. Very common. So we talk about air, right? Then wood also. Then plastic. Okay, if you don't know, actually glass also, as well as rubber. There is this particular question that came out. Which year was that? 2018 or 2019? They talk about the windows. Okay, they talk about the windows, right? So there are two layers of glass. Okay, so part of the window, this is the cross section. So this is a layer of glass. Okay, this is another layer of glass. In between the two layers of glass, there is actually air. Yeah, so in between the two layers, there's actually air. So they ask you to explain, how does this window help the people during winter when the weather is extremely cold? So, of course, you have to think about it. How would you explain this? Timothy, do you think you have some idea? If I were to ask you, okay, there is this window, there are two layers of glass, then in between the layers, there's actually air. So how will this type of windows help people to help the people during winter time?
They like trap the air like that the bug feather and the polar bear frog traps the air.
I can't hear you clearly because